都係得到第3名嘅英國車手沙利嘅。結果啊，第18屆嘅電單車格蘭披治大賽車嘅冠軍咧就係格蘭啦。佢繼77年之後咧係第2次得到呢個冠軍位置嘅。立即展開係電單車格蘭披治大賽車第1回合嘅賽事。電單車格蘭披治大賽係分開2個回合進行嘅，每個回合係15圈嘅賽事。今次有45名車手係進入決賽嘅，咁香港係佔咗15位，英國係佔咗14位嘅。而排頭位方面咧，分別就係格蘭、馬素、沙利等嘅人士嘅。咁你見到一開始嘅時候咧，英國一批車手咧已經殺咗出嚟啦。首先咧進入呢一個直路方面，如果葡京灣咧係轉第一個彎嘅，邊個進入第一個彎嘅時候咧就會好着數啦。咁我睇下前面方面啦，分別咧就有11號嘅英國車手咧係馬素，而緊跟其後咧就係有10號嘅車手格蘭嘅。咁而33號嘅香港車手咧黃介文咧亦都係緊跟住第7、8位置嘅。咁葡京灣已經入咗啦，分批車手亦都進入咗。咁喺前面咧車手係散咗，哎呀有幾位車手兜咗大圈然後先入到去啊！好險啊呢個位，哎呀69號嘅香港車手咧施路華咧係唔能夠撻着火啊！咁佢嗰個老鼠仔咧有少少問題啦，所以係唔能夠撻火啊！咁佢喺呢個高級組賽事咧，亦都出現同樣嘅情況啊！估唔到格蘭披治大賽車咧，亦都係同樣情況出現，咁對佢嘅損失係相當之大㗎。咁曾經喺格蘭披治係得過第9名嘅。咁我哋睇翻松山一段啦，喺前面領先嘅紅色衫嘅咧就係11號車嘅羅渣馬素，處於第2位置咧藍色衫嘅咧就係格蘭嚟嘅10號車，兩位都係英國嘅車手。格蘭咧就係40歲，而呢個羅渣馬素咧係33歲㗎。咁格蘭啊對呢個場地相當之熟悉，佢第6次啊嚟到呢個澳門格蘭披治咧進行比賽㗎。佢82年咧係得到呢個亞軍㗎。嚟到水塘灣呢段啊，10號車嘅格蘭咧仍處於第2位置，喺前面領先嘅就係馬素啊。格蘭所揸嘅咧就係呢個 Suzuki 500嘅車嚟㗎，而呢一個啊羅渣馬素所揸嘅咧就係康打500。康打500咧就響直路嘅表現咧就冇呢一個 Suzuki 500咁好啊。咁我一睇下就可以知道啦。咁康打咧就響呢個彎路嘅表現咧相當之良好㗎。咁所以響松山一段路咧就會係啊羅渣馬素比較着數啦。而10號車嘅格蘭咧就喺後面緊張住，希望有機會抽頭咧過佢㗎。咁而家咧就對咗呢一個葡京直路之前啦。咁咧我哋見到啊，領先嘅仍然係11號車嘅羅渣馬素，緊跟其後咧就格蘭攝住個內欄位，有冇機會過到呢個羅渣馬素啊？有啊，好嘢啊！呢個攝咗內欄位，而家哎呀，但係格蘭咧又穿翻過個位度喎。兩個車手真係鬥得好精彩，而後面一紮車手咧只能夠望住佢哋鬥嘅啫。咁啊，英國兩位車手仍然喺前面啊，而家第3位置嘅咧就係4號車嘅沙利啊，處於第3位置，仍然係英國車手嚟嘅。咁佢所揸嘅咧就係呢一部 Suzuki 嘅500嚟㗎。而家領先嘅仍然係10號車嘅英國車手格蘭啦，着住藍色衫，今年係40歲啦。咁佢曾經喺世界方面咧81年係得過英國嘅1級嘅冠軍㗎。咁而第2位置嘅馬素咧亦都係來頭不少啊，得過83年英國500cc 嘅冠軍㗎。而前面領先嘅仍然係10號車嘅格蘭啦，佢喺最後一圈之前咧仍然領先20秒㗎。咁嚟到水塘直路啦，後面嘅車完全係追佢唔到㗎。咁肯定可以拎到呢一個回合嘅冠軍啦。但係拎到呢個回合嘅冠軍咧，都未必係冠軍嚟㗎，仲要睇第2個回合嘅成績㗎。格仔騎一輝，時間方面係40分50.91秒啊，相當好嘅時間㗎，比羅渣馬素咧快咗相當之多㗎。咁而家羅渣馬素咧先至嚟到呢條直路度啊，亦都係等住衝線。亦都係等住支格仔旗，咁佢時間咧應該就比呢一個格蘭咧慢咗20秒有多㗎，冇錯係慢咗21.70秒啊！咁呢個時間咧都好難追啦，除非第2個回合咧佢有水準演出嘅啫。而第3名方面咧，亦都係英國嘅車手係沙利㗎。咁格蘭咧今次係希望繼77年之後咧再次拎到呢個冠軍位置㗎。咁第1個回合嘅成績咧，冠軍係10號嘅格蘭，亞軍11號嘅馬素，第3名咧係4號嘅沙利㗎。咁而第2個回合方面咧，大家所注意嘅就係左手面10號車嘅格蘭同埋右手面11號車嘅馬素啦。咁呢兩位咧就分別係冠亞軍嘅人物啦。咁比賽即將開始㗎啦。咁其他車手你都希望爭到個好嘅位置㗎。咁我哋見到啊，仰手嗰位咧就係 Mike Trimby 啦，呢位咧就係帶領啲歐洲車手啊嚟到澳門作賽嘅人啊，佢就話咧後面啲車係有啲事啦。咁我見到32號嘅黃介文咧就霸咗呢個24號車嘅位置㗎，咁啊褪翻落後面啦唯有。咁準備好之後咧就會開步啦。9號車呢位咧就係班力提嚟㗎，咁啊第1次嚟到澳門嚟作賽，成班人都好似偷步咁嘅架啦。咁啊終於就開咗步啦。 咗出嚟嘅咧就係12號啊呢位啊奇利夫㗎，亦都係英國嘅車手，而緊其後就係羅渣馬素同埋格蘭㗎。咁成隻車手湧咗出嚟之後咧，仍然見到係響前面帶頭係奇利夫同埋羅渣馬素同埋呢個格蘭㗎。咁啊，羅渣馬素咧就攝咗呢個內欄位㗎，而呢個奇利夫係攝咗外欄位，睇下瞓唔瞓到呢個彎先，一瞓落去12號嘅，攞咗呢個彎先，而跟住第2位置咧就係羅渣馬素，第3位置咧就係英國嘅車手格蘭㗎。咁格蘭響第1回合拎到冠軍啦，今次咧只要做到呢個冠軍位置第2名咧，都可以係有機會拎到冠軍㗎。咁嚟到法甲灣呢度咧，仍然領先嘅係奇利夫，而跟住其後咧就係羅渣馬素同埋格蘭㗎。咁後面嘅車手都紛紛過呢個法甲灣啦。咁相信去到直路嘅時候啊，羅渣馬素同埋格蘭咧就會超越過12號嘅奇利夫啊！冇錯啊，11號車咧已經超越過奇利夫咧，處於領先嘅位置啊！咁啊，羅渣馬素咧的確係不愧啊，係嗰個大將嘅本色啊！而緊其後10號車嘅格蘭咧，亦都湧咗上嚟喎。咁啊，超過咗奇利夫啊！咁而家變咗係冠亞軍之爭啦！咁樣第1回合咧，格蘭咧就贏羅渣馬素咧，贏到離行離辣啦！睇下呢個回合嘅情況又會點樣啦！咁兩架車仍然拍住咁上啊，領先第1位置仍然係羅渣馬素，第2位置係格蘭㗎。咁第3位置咧就係奇利夫嚟㗎。咁去到直路呢一段，響右手面嘅就係羅渣馬素，左手面嘅就係格蘭。格蘭分個內彎啊，睇下有冇機會咧入到呢個彎度啊！冇錯，第1個分彎嘅就係呢一個格蘭，而第2個分彎咧就係羅渣馬素。羅渣馬素喺中間插咗上去啊，但係仍然係俾呢個格蘭咧又瞓翻個彎咧，攞翻第1個位置啊！好精彩啊！呢兩個位證明呢兩個車手的確技術超凡啊！嗱，我哋再睇一次慢鏡頭，佢哋兩個點樣瞓呢兩個彎啊？響內欄嘅咧就係呢一個格蘭，而外欄嘅咧就係羅渣馬素啊！咁啊，羅渣馬素咧響外欄方面咧就攞唔到個好位啊，唯有咧就10號嘅格蘭咧攞個好位之後先瞓咗個彎，但係羅渣馬素咧 hold 住佢瞓彎期間咧就插咗去入邊個位喎，咁然後咧加速佢上環嘅，咁就變咗咧仍然係10號車同埋11號車鬥㗎。咁11號車仍然響外欄，10號車仍然響內欄，睇呢個位又點啊？呢個位咧就變咗係羅渣馬素瞓彎先，而呢個後面嘅格蘭咧處於第2位置㗎。呢個位置咧成日變動嘅，嚟嚟去都係呢兩個人玩㗎。嗱，呢一次咧就變咗係羅渣馬素好嘢，瞓咗個彎之後變咗壓住10號車嘅格蘭咧，唔能夠入彎啊！嚟到水塘灣呢一段咧，10號車嘅格蘭咧食咗內線位啊，而呢個馬素咧食咗外線位，結果格蘭咧一馬當先係搶咗位出嚟㗎。咁而家領先嘅仍然係呢2部車啊，未到最後1分鐘啊，都唔敢肯定啊邊一架車係可以贏㗎。而家前面領先嘅仍然係呢一個羅渣馬素，咁羅渣馬素嘅康打咧響直路方面咧就冇呢個 Suzuki 格蘭嗰部咁好啦，冇錯啦，最後尾落彎嘅時候咧遲入逼嘅咧就係格蘭啦10號車，而後面緊其後咧就係羅渣馬素處於1、2位置，咁其他嘅車咧紛紛已經落後佢1個圈有多㗎啦。即使呢一個回合啊，11號嘅羅渣馬素咧贏咗格蘭啊，都仲要睇時間啊，因為第1個回合嚟講咧，佢就輸咗21.70秒啊。換句説話講啊，呢一個回合咧，羅渣馬素一定要贏21.70秒先得㗎。到最後1個圈啦，領先嘅仍然係呢一個羅渣馬素處於第2位置嘅係格蘭㗎。咁格蘭啊，只要等啄住呢個羅渣馬素咧，就可以拎到呢個冠軍位置㗎。到咗電廠街直路呢方面咧，兩個車手仍然掹得好緊要啊。咁啊，羅渣馬素咧就希望放離呢個格蘭啊，但係睇嚟就冇乜機會。反而格蘭咧超越咗羅渣馬素係處於領先嘅位置喎。咁啊，羅渣馬素咧就希望喺呢一段追翻佢，但係睇嚟就冇乜可能啦。只有係拎個亞軍位置，同埋將個時間係拉近嘅，處於領先位置仍然係英國嘅車手格蘭。咁啊，而家只要嚟到水塘直路再過埋呢一段路咧，就可以係穩斷啦呢一面啊冠軍嘅位置㗎啦。格仔奇英準備揮動啦，兩位車手咧亦都準備衝線。冇錯，一揮動嘅時候，冠軍係格蘭，亞軍係羅渣馬素㗎。咁呢一場咧亦都係鬥得相當之精彩，比第1回合咧精彩好多㗎。咁而第3位置咧就係4號車嘅沙利啦。兩位車手啊贏咗之後咧握下手冇所謂啦，大家都係英國車手啊嘛。而頭先啊，格蘭贏馬素嘅時間咧，只不過係0.3秒啫，相當之接近嘅成績嚟㗎。咁在場嘅觀眾咧，報以掌聲啊，證明呢場比賽係幾咁扣人心弦啦。咁而得個第3名嘅咧，就喺第1同埋第2回合都係得到第3名嘅英國車手沙利㗎。結果啊，第18屆嘅電單車格蘭披治大賽車嘅冠軍咧就係格蘭啦。佢繼77年之後咧，係第2次得到呢個冠軍位置㗎。
Grand Prix for motorcycles, and we can 2 minutes 38.81. Now that's a little bit slower than the lap record set by Ron Haslam, the winner last year. You can see number 10 Mick Grant there to the left of your picture, and to the right of him, the machine number 11. That's the factory Honda of another Englishman, Roger Marshall, who was second fastest in the 2 training periods. Well, we spoke yesterday to Mick Grant about his chances here at Macau. So here in this year's entry, you think you can win it again?
I wouldn't tempt Providence, Christopher, by saying that. I think we should be somewhere near the front.
And who will the opposition be?
Obviously, it's got to be my old teammate Roger Marshall. He's going very well. And Klaus Klein. There's 2 or 3 actually that could just be dark horses. They could be foxing.
Well, of course, you and Roger are both very much exponents of road circuits. Do you like Macau Grand Prix?
I thoroughly enjoy the Macau Grand Prix. I mean, I don't come here for the money. No, I thoroughly enjoy it.
What about the circuit do you like?
Well, actually, when you're riding around it, you don't enjoy any of it. It's when you're sitting back and think about it afterwards, and you look forward to it every year that you seem to enjoy it.
We've talked about the opposition, Marshall, Klein, perhaps Steve Parrish must be in there.
Sure.
Do you have any tactics for the race, a 2-leg race? Do you plan any sort of campaign?
Well, I remember 2 years ago when I finished second to Ronnie. Ronnie got away in the first one, and although I won the second leg, I couldn't make it up. So, obviously, can't afford to dawdle about in either leg. But basically, play it as it comes.
Now, of course, you are getting on in years, 40 years, of course. Do you think the heat's going to play a factor in the race?
I wouldn't think any more than anyone else, Chris. I've never really minded the heat, and let's hope it doesn't affect me this time.
Of course, you were ill before you came out to Hong Kong. Do you think, are you fighting fit now?
Yes, I had quite a bad bout of tonsillitis, actually, but I'm all right at the minute.
You'll be all right on the night?
I'm sure I will.
A confident Mick Grant then, and every reason to be confident, as I say. Fastest in practice, but there in the foreground, the man that could make life difficult for both Grant and Marshall. Number 21, Klaus Klein from West Germany, one of the new Grand Prix stars we see on the World Championship trail. 4th fastest in practice was the young Englishman Roger Burnett on his Suzuki. Then that you see number 9, Roger Burnett, and just pulling forward onto the front row of the grid. He'll be retreating in a moment. That's number 41, Stu Avant, the New Zealander. Stu is on the 2nd row of the grid, or at least he should be. Roger Burnett, number 9, just being push-started there by his mechanic brother Ian Burnett. And as I was saying, a tremendous entry from all over the world coming here to Macau. Just a quick look down the practice leaderboard to see where the best local men are. Well, number 33, Wang Kai Man, who was the winner of the senior race a little earlier today, he was in 13th position, and they're off go the bikes at the start of the warm-up lap. That's the lap to run in the tyres and get the bike sorted. Well, perhaps this is a moment to have a word with Barry Simmons. He's the team manager of Roger Marshall. Yesterday we had a chance to talk to Barry to see how he thought the race would go for Roger. Well, Barry Simmons, Mick Grant on the Suzuki fastest. You're here with the official Honda factory team with Roger Marshall. Are you worried that the opposition are quicker?
Not unduly, Chris. Second practice today. We missed one yesterday. Trying a few things in this last practice. That's one of the reasons I'm here and not Roger, because we had to do a plug chop at the end of the straight. But I think the difference is about 1.5 seconds, and over 30 laps of this circuit, I don't think that's too bad a problem.
Of course, people perhaps don't realise that Roger Marshall is such a good road man. Lap record holder at places like the Ulster Grand Prix, very good at the Isle of Man TT, and of course almost the winner of this year's TT Formula 1 World Championship on road circuits. He really will give Mick a run for his money, I think.
Well, I think so, and obviously there's quite an age difference, and Roger's really charged up for this race. It was his first time here last year. He came 3rd overall, and I think he got a 2nd place in one of the legs. So I think Roger's going to be a hard man to beat.
A hard man to beat, says Barry Simmons, and he's talking about Roger Marshall on the factory Honda bike number 11. The man that he's got to beat, of course, is Mick Grant on bike number 10. It's a Suzuki versus Honda clash. But don't rule out the possibilities of the West German Klaus Klein on bike 21, a man who likes the road circuits, and there's certainly no tougher road circuit anywhere in the world than this one. People talk about the Isle of Man TT circuit. Well, that's a tough track for anybody. Paul Fowler from Motorcycle News, one of the world's leading motorcycle papers, he's up here with me in the commentary box. How do you compare the Macau circuit with something like the TT, Paul?
Well, obviously the biggest difference is that the Macau Grand Prix is over a much shorter track. The TT is in fact 10 times as long as the Macau track here, but there are some marked similarities really. They're both very tight, very demanding indeed, and I think we'll find that a lot of the riders that are good at the TT will also be good here at Macau.
And of course the added difficulty for the competitors facing the Macau Grand Prix is the fact that unlike the TT, where the riders are set off at 10-second intervals, here it's a race, every man for himself, wheel to wheel, shoulder to shoulder, and we're looking forward to seeing some of that action here in this first 15-lap leg. The riders out on the warm-up lap. This not to warm up the oil or anything like that, primarily to warm up the tyres. Competitors on road racing motorcycles have slick tyres. That's tyres with no tread pattern on at all. They're totally smooth rubber, but very special made compound rubber tyres, with the compound turning sticky under heat and gripping the road just like adhesive glue. Well, the riders coming back onto the grid now, and in just a few seconds time we shall be underway, and that's a shot there of the narrow runoff area facing the competitors. Certainly a track that has the respect, I think that's the word to describe it, of most of the competitors who come here. It's certainly one that they treat with a great deal of respect, but one, as I say, that most of them like, and that's shown by the fact that many of them keep coming back year after year. And this man, Mick Grant, the man who is in pole position on the grid, well, he's been coming for a long time too. He won in 1977, he's been back several times since then, and his record really is quite remarkable. First in 1977, 11th in 78 when he had motor problems, second in 82, and fourth last year. Well, what more can you ask of anyone at all, except perhaps to win, and that's what Grant's trying to do this year. Well, Paul, I've talked enough about my tips for victory. Who do you go for?
Well, I think it'd be very difficult to be too far removed from yours, Chris. I think Mick Grant and Roger Marshall are obviously going to be the two men to watch.
OK, so the seconds tick away, the grid is cleared, 21. That's the West German Klaus Klein on the 500 Suzuki, third fastest in practice, and his machine just being pushed back to the correct position on the grid. A very, very nervous, tense moment in any race, and no more so than here at Macau. The circuit, of course, very narrow. Mike Trimby there in the picture. He's the man who puts together the European package, brings over the foreign superstars of the motorcycling world, and he's just checking everything's okay. And as I was saying, the start important absolutely everywhere, but none more so than here, because the first tight corner at Statue Corner is the one they worry about, and the lights have gone, and it's Roger Marshall and Roger Burnett in the lead. The field stormed through the Yacht Club corner, just kicking up dust from the cement laid after an earlier incident today. But number 11 in the front of your picture, that's Roger Marshall, who seems to be heading the pack as they change down through the gears and then turn sharp right and go through Statue Corner, up past the Lisboa Hotel. And it certainly looked like Roger Marshall who was leading to me, and a moment of misfortune for 69. That's Michael De Silva, one of the local stars. Well, bad luck indeed for Michael De Silva. He had an excellent ride in this morning's senior race, finishing in second place, but Michael De Silva in trouble here at the moment. But the leaders, though, through to the top part of the circuit. And that's Marshall followed by Grant, and it's going to be how we thought it was, a Honda versus Suzuki battle. Out in front, bike number 11, with Mick Grant, bike number 10, in second place. So Marshall having the upper hand at the moment, Paul.
Yes, indeed. Roger Marshall was telling me last night that his tactics would be simply to go straight out at the front and lead all the way through.
Problems still for Michael De Silva there. somebody giving him a push, but that motorcycle will not go. The 500 Yamaha just refusing to fire up, and the race, at least the first leg here at Macau, over for local boy Michael De Silva. We wait now at the hairpin for the leaders to come into view. It was Marshall from Granton. That's the order still as they come down the hill. It's the Honda man, Roger Marshall, bike number 11, a nice wide line. Grant there in second place. The rest of the field streaming through. Peter Rubato then, the green leathers, one of the Germans on a four-stroke machine. But here are the leaders again, coming down through Fisherman's Bend, along Reservoir Straight, and Mick Grant has a look over his shoulder to see where the opposition is. Marshall by a machine's length, and good news for Michael De Silva fans, he's finally got that motorcycle fired up, and he's almost a full lap down, but as I say, he finished second in the senior race a little earlier this morning, so Michael De Silva in the hunt as Roger Marshall leads Mick Grant as they come round to complete the first of 15 laps. Marshall the leader, Grant in second place, wheel to wheel. The rest of the field streaming through, but Grant pulls alongside Marshall. Is he going to outbrake him? Going to Statue Corner, he's on the inside, he's got the better racing line, and Grant goes through into the lead, but Marshall without gun him, or can he? Well, Marshall was challenging again. So Marshall and Grant wheel to wheel at the moment. The rest of the field going through, and in third spot at the moment was Neil Robinson, and that really is a dramatic start for the young Ulsterman. In fourth position was Steve Parrish. Well, Steve Parrish is a regular rider here at Macau. Grant there still in the lead in picture at the moment. Marshall there in second place. Well, Grant was quicker in practice, as we've said before, almost 2.5 seconds a lap faster than the Honda man. But Grant told me yesterday that he certainly wasn't going to go for any quick laps. There is the running time on the scoreboard, just over 4 minutes gone in this 15-lap race. That's Colin Marshall there in the picture, one of the British boys coming over for his first taste of the Macau Grand Prix. A quick rundown of the leaders on that first lap. It was Marshall leading from Grant, but Grant then took the lead going into Statue Corner. There's Michael De Silva, number 69. He's back in the race, a sluggish start, and the leaders are catching him. There's Grant, bike number 10, braking hard for this first gear hairpin, very reminiscent of the Ramsey hairpin in the Isle of Man. There's Neil Robinson, number 7, pursued by Steve Parrish, and that's Klaus Klein, who's just got the edge on Steve Parrish. In fact, it wasn't Klaus Klein, my apologies, it was David Griffith, the Lutterworth boy, who was fastest in unofficial practice on Thursday, and Griffith there just steaming through on the inside. There is the race leader, number 10, Grant. Marshall content at this stage to follow him, and I think Roger, with a lot of experience here at Macau, knows exactly what he's doing. A long way to go in this race. Roger Marshall, of course, third overall in the Macau Grand Prix last year, but he finished it second in one of the legs behind Ron Haslam as Grant goes through, leading at the end of the second lap. Grant the leader, Roger Marshall in second place, and already the leaders have begun to pull away a gap from the scrap for third, fourth and fifth place, and it's still Neil Robinson in third place and David Griffith in fourth position. That's John Long, one of the Americans, making his debut here at Macau. First time the Americans have been here, and this is the battle behind the leaders. And in fact, that's a little bit further down the leaderboard at the moment. That's Matt Oxley, the fellow journalist Paul Fowler leading a bunch going through, but in the picture now, Mick Grant on the Suzuki. Well, Mick Grant, a star, an expert at the Isle of Man TT races, and one of the kings of the Macau circuit too. Grant was the man who broke Mike Harewood's lap record several years ago. There's one of the tail enders going through. That's number 17, Su Kam Ti Mai. But the leader, just a quick rundown on the leaders as they lie at the end of the second lap. It was Mick Grant from Roger Marshall, with Neil Robinson in second place, David Griffiths in fourth spot, then Mark Sall in fifth position, Steve Parrish behind him, then the German Klaus Klein, and Peter Rubato, another one of the West Germans, Roger Burnett, and then the New Zealander Stu Avant. And Mick Grant rounds the hairpin, pulling away now from Roger Marshall, and news from the pits is that the European champion, the Finn Eero Häivärinne, has pulled out of the race. Here comes the scrap behind, and there's David Griffiths ahead of Mark Sall, and they've eased Neil Robinson into fifth position, so a new third place man, but still no problems for this man. Bike number 10, 40-year-old Mick Grant from Lepton near Huddersfield, up in the Yorkshire Hills. Beautiful home. Mick Grant, he's been racing motorcycles an awful long time and winning for an awful long time too. Grant comes through under the Psycho Bridge, leading at the end of the third lap. That's second place man Roger Marshall. 3 laps gone. Mick Grant in the lead on bike number 10. Second at number 11, Roger Marshall. And 4.5 seconds between the first and second men at the moment. Roger Marshall winds on the power. And some of the tail enders coming down through Fisherman's Mark. There is Mark Sall, who's in third position. David Griffiths is now fourth. Neil Robinson is fifth. Robinson fighting to get back on terms. Steve Parrish has moved ahead of Klaus Klein. So a really good battle going on there. Grant again, number 10. Smooth, polished rider. Minutes, 20 seconds gone in this first leg. Another 15 lap race, of course, tomorrow to decide overall victory. And that's the scrap for third, fourth and fifth place. And David Griffiths in the red leathers, lying second in your picture but fourth in the race at the moment. Well, he had some misfortunes yesterday in practice. His Suzuki broke a disc valve after just 3 laps of the first time session, and that put David Griffiths out of the second session too. He qualified in 13th place, but really he's charging very well indeed. There is Roger Marshall in second spot, coming down to the hairpin, and Roger beginning to lose ground on Grant. Whether this is tactics, whether Roger is going to conserve his strength. He trains with Grimsby Town Football Club, one of the top second division teams in England. And down comes the battle for third place. Mark Sall, David Griffiths, Neil Robinson, Steve Parrish, and sorry, Klaus Klein has now gone ahead of Steve Parrish. So Parrish has lost a place. No problems at all for Grant. Here comes this battle though for third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh spots. Mark Sall number 4, David Griffiths number 12. Griffiths has had an excellent season in Britain. He's beaten Barry Sheen at Scarborough, which in itself is no disgrace, but Mark Sall is certainly quickening his pace as Mick Grant goes through Statue Corner, having completed 4 laps, 11 more laps to go. There's Sall in third place, Griffiths in 4th spot. He's trying as hard as he knows through the Yacht Club bend, one of the most difficult corners, almost a flat-out section of the circuit. Sal, 12 is Griffiths. Robinson and Klaus Klein is beginning to put the pressure on the young Ulsterman just ahead of him. Those 4 riders having a real scrap, and Grant goes through the Solitude S's well out in front. At the end of the 4th lap, it was Grant from Marshall, Mark Sal, David Griffith, Neil Robinson, Klaus Klein, Steve Parrish, and that is Ray Swan. Well, Ray was expecting to ride his big 4-stroke here at Macau, but he's been given the chance to ride a 500 Suzuki, and he's certainly getting to grips with it. He's just now come into the picture. He's in 10th place at the moment, and closing on. Welcome back to Macau. 5 laps gone in this first leg of the Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. Mick Grant, the race leader, with 5 laps gone. Roger Marshall in 2nd place, and dramatic news, Klaus Klein, the West German, who was up into 6th place, he's out of the race. Mark Sal is still there in 3rd spot. David Griffiths is 4th. Neil Robinson is in 5th position, and Steve Parrish moves up a place with the retirement of the West German. Klaus Klein then, the 3rd fastest in practice, out of the race. And one of the tail-enders then going through the Solitude S's, and down to the hairpin comes the race leader, Mick Grant, the big number 10 on the back of those blue leathers. And there is the very disappointed and unhappy Klaus Klein. He wanted to do well here in Macau, just his sort of circuit, but as you can see, Klaus Klein reduced to the ranks of spectator as Mick Grant, bike number 10, the 500cc Suzuki, charges through in the lead through Marlborough Bend, and action at the hairpin, and Dave Griffiths carving his way through some of the tail enders. Steve Parrish, and there's Roger Burnett. Well, Roger Burnett making his debut at Macau, beginning to make an impression on the field. David Griffiths, number 12. Neil Robinson, number 7. Griffiths here last year had an excellent ride at Macau. Neil Robinson is a newcomer, but there is 3rd place man, Mark Sal, bike number 4. Mark Sal, one of the best British 500cc riders, not just a star on the domestic scene. And David Griffiths now under pressure from Neil Robinson. Robinson looks though he's getting his 2nd wind, and Robinson seizes the chance to dive through on the inside. It puts him very wide on the exit of Reservoir Bend, but he holds on to 4th place. He's gone ahead now of David Griffiths. We can see that passing manoeuvre again in just a second. There's Mark Sal going through, Neil Robinson and David Griffith. And Griffiths not giving up the battle for 4th place. He's trying very hard, but the young Ulsterman Robinson is there. And here again in slow motion we see Robinson bravely diving through, just stealing the racing line from under the front wheel of David Griffiths. And there is the scoreboard with 6 laps gone, showing that Mick Grant is in the lead to a time of 16 minutes 11.8 seconds for those opening lap. In 2nd place, Roger Marshall. 3rd, Mark Sal, number 4. It shows on the scoreboard that David Griffiths is 5th, but as you can see, it changes because Neil Robinson, number 7, has gone up into 4th place, and in 5th spot, it's bike number 12 for David Griffiths. Back to the hairpin, and that is Michael Grant, Mick Grant, the leader, just skimming with his shoulder, the Armco lining the circuit, and Grant really appears to have this race very much in the bag. Number 19, that's Matt Oxley, a fellow journalist of Paul Fowler. Not a bad ride from Matt, Paul.
No, not a bad ride at all. Matt's a very good rider indeed for a journalist. And we're back to Mick Grant now.
Mick Grant then, the leader, carving his way through some of the tail enders. And Roger Marshall, the man in second place, will really have to pull something out of the bag if he's going to do something. And 6 laps gone, they're on their 7th. Coming up, and there is Roger Burnett just diving through on the inside of Steve Parrish, but Steve Parrish, the wily old fox, goes sneaking back. There's Mark Sal. You can see he's trying hard. The bike bobbing and weaving as he hangs off the right-hand side of the bike. That's bike number 4, Mark Sal, in 3rd place at the moment. But he too is a long way behind second place man Roger Marshall. But Sal on the tank, trying very hard as he goes through Marlborough Bend, heading towards Reservoir Bend, then one of the fastest parts of the circuit, the Grandstand Straight.
And in the Grandstand Straight, they're in 6th gear, flat on the tank, throttle against the stop, about 150 miles an hour or so. They're just knocking it off slightly for the right-hand kink at the Yacht Club Bend, and then on the gas once more.
And here's this tremendous dice for 4th place, David Griffiths, number 12, Neil Robinson, number 7. 2 young men from England. David Griffiths is 26 years of age on bike number 12. The man behind Neil Robinson is just 22, and Griffiths really fighting to control the bike, and maybe he's overshot. Well, that really was superb riding from Griffiths and Robinson. And here's a slow motion replay of these 2 men absolutely wheel to wheel. Griffiths taking the lead as they start to peel off for the Yacht Club Bend. Griffiths, a very brave young man, won the Stars at Darley 2-leg race back in England in September. And we're waiting now to pick up the race leader, Mick Grant, and that's some of the tail enders going through. And there is Mick Grant accelerating hard from the hairpin. Number 2, that's Henry de Gauw, and back again with the race leader, Mick Grant. Well, this is a genuine road circuit, of course. Waiting now to see second place man Roger Marshall, to see what the gap is between him and Grant. That's the tail enders going through. Grant in the picture, and certainly Grant showing his mastery of Macau. More of the slow men round Fisherman's Bend, and this is a racetrack that sorts the wheat from the chaff, and Mick Grant is doing that as he carves his way past another American visitor for the first time, Henry de Gauw. Mick Grant, number 10, just skimming the rubber tyres on the exit. And Grant's lead at the moment, 16 seconds, a really colossal advantage for the Yorkshireman. A quick run down the leaders. Grant for the leader from Marshall, Mark Sal, David Griffiths, Neil Robinson, Steve Parrish and Roger Burnett. And we, for news of some of the incidents down in the pits, down to Brian Langley. That's Peter Clifford, the another one of the journalists over here. Bad news for Peter, Paul.
Yes, Peter's obviously got some problem with his bike. He's riding Trevor Nation's Ducati, Formula 1 Ducati here, and it looks like he's going back into the race. It looks like he might have some sort of either a gearbox problem or a sprocket problem there.
It's possible, of course, that the chain has begun to stretch. Lots of bumps around this 3.8 mile Macau circuit. And we rejoin the race with Mick Grant still holding that comfortable advantage from Roger Marshall, and Grant still trying hard. He's certainly not flat out, otherwise Mick would be down flat on the tank. But he's having to keep his wits about him as he carves his way relentlessly through the slower men. He's been lapping riders since about the 5th lap in the race, and Grant now has completed 9 laps. In fact, he will have completed 9 laps when he crosses the finishing line now. There's Henry de Gouw, and there's Roger Marshall, number 11. Marshall still trying very hard to reduce the deficit between himself and Grant goes over the start and finish line, so you can get some idea of the gap between himself and Roger Marshall here. Marshall chin on the tank, trying as hard as he knows. Roger and the Honda team were somewhat disappointed that they lost a practice session on Thursday because of the heavy overnight rain. They had to gamble on the gearbox to use. They finally settled on the one used by Ron Haslam last year, and perhaps, Paul, it looks as though their choice of gearbox may not have been quite right.
No, it doesn't seem so. Barry Simmons was very confident before the race that they'd made the right decision, but it looks here as if Mick Grant definitely has the legs on them this time.
Grant and Marshall then, that's Peter Clifford back in the fray, and being a bit of a mobile obstacle for the race leader, Mick Grant, who carves his way past him. Well, whatever the problem is that Peter has, he's back in the race, but he's not going very quickly at the moment, Paul, is he?
No, indeed not. Peter wasn't very happy with this track here at Macau. I don't think he's really got to grips with it, and he's some way off the pace of the leading men.
And that's Silhouette Bands. That's Henry de Jong, the American, the Flying Tigers teammate to John Long. Henry de Jong is a bit sort of coy about his age, and there's that was Donnie Robinson going through, and we appear to have lost Steve Parrish on our lap charts. Steve Parrish has gone missing. Well, whether that's a mechanical problem, and a worrying moment there for Mick Grant, one of the slower men just stealing the racing line there. That's another one. That's Peter Clifford going through well over a lap behind the leaders, and traffic jam at the hairpin, and Matt Oxley almost forced into the Armco as Mick Grant speeds on his way. He's coming round now to complete his 10th lap, and Mick Grant really seems to have this job sewn up. And we'll just taking a short break. We'll be back at Macau in just a moment. Welcome back to Macau with Mick Grant, the Yorkshireman, still leading comfortably, 20 seconds his advantage over Roger Marshall. Mark Sal is there in 3rd place. That is the race leader, Grant. Absolutely no problems for this Suzuki factory man, 40 years of age, and giving an absolute thrashing to youngsters half his age. Grant on the brink of signing the contract with Suzuki for next year's TT Formula 1 World Championship. There's number 11, Roger Marshall, in 2nd place, 20 seconds down on Grant, but trying very hard indeed. Grant slipping through on the inside of a couple of tail enders, coming round to complete 11 laps. Hard over, almost flat out through the Yacht Club bend, and really it takes a very brave man to do that. The tail enders going through, Matt Oxley amongst the group of them. More tail enders as we wait for Roger Marshall, who's in 2nd place. And that's Mark Sal, number 4. He's in 3rd spot, but behind this man is the scrap that really has got the crowd on its toes here at Macau. Mark Sal, number 4, in 3rd spot. He too is a long, long way behind the man ahead of him, That man, of course, being Roger Marshall. Marcel under the Seiko Bridge. Peels hard right for the very fast Yacht Club bend. Then it's the Yacht Club straight. Down through the gears from 6th top gear into 1st for Statue Corner. Marcel, a quiet man, he prefers to do all his talking on the racetrack. There is the leaderboard showing Mick Grant, 11 laps completed. In 2nd place, number 11, Roger Marshall. 3rd spot, Marcel, number 4. Then in 5th place now, Roger Burnett, and that really is an excellent ride from Roger Burnett. And the news is that David Griffith, number 12, is in the pits, and Neil Robinson. So 2 of the top men, 2 of the youngsters who've been battling away in trouble. David Griffiths out of the race, and so too is Neil Robinson, and that puts Roger Burnett. There's Ray Swan just going round the outside, and here in the pits, David Griffiths, his mechanic, takes the petrol tank off the bike just to see what the problem is, but you can see no possibility of David being back in the fray. He's got to wait until tomorrow to show his worth here at Macau. And slow motion of Ray Swan and some of the other lower leaderboard men. That, I think, is Matt Oxley proving how brave he is going through the silhouette. But Neil Robinson has rejoined the race. He'll have lost some distance. There's Colin Marshall on the 1000cc Honda, the sit-up and bag handlebars, bike number 25. Colin, he's thoroughly enjoying himself, but behind him is the man, the focus of attention, number 10, Mick Grant. Grant has now completed 12 laps, just 3 more to go, as Mark Sal goes through Fisherman's Bend down towards Marlborough Bend. So you can see the gap, the physical gap between Grant and 3rd place man Mark Sal, and sandwiched between the two is this man, Roger Marshall. And Grant's lead is now 23 seconds, and Paul Fowler, I don't really think even Mick Grant thought he was going to be this easy.
No, I don't think he did. Mick was saying last night, however, that his Suzuki was very much on song at the moment. He was very pleased with the bike. It's been running better than ever here in Macau. The conditions in the Portuguese colony seem to suit it.
Well, Grant's a man who doesn't mind the odd brick wall and Armco barrier around him. He's used to road circuits of all kinds. Mark Sal, number 4. You can see the bike twitching under braking. All the brakes on, then they let off. Picks his way through on the inside of a slower man. Has to ease off because the other man had the racing line. So Mark Sal, that's Roger Marshall in 2nd place. Stuyvesant, well, Stuyvesant, a New Zealander who came to Europe in 1976 and made a big impact on the Grand Prix scene. And there is a traffic jam at the hairpin with Mick Grant just literally bouncing off the Armco barrier. Well, there was a lot of action there, Paul.
And indeed there was. Mick was saying earlier on today that one of the things that worried him about this race was the possibility of some of the Chinese riders and the local riders might get in his way, but he didn't seem to have too much problem there. He's well used to brushing walls in his Isle of Man exploits.
Well, to be fair to the locals, it was Colin Marshall and Donny McLeod, 2 of the men who were making that little mobile traffic chicane for him at the hairpin, but no problems for Granty. He's coming round to complete his 13th lap. And as we've said many times in this broadcast, Grant very much in command. There is bike at number 11, Roger Marshall. More than 23 seconds now behind the Yorkshireman. Roger Marshall, originally from Grimsby, now living in the Lincolnshire area of England. His wife Jane expecting their third child very shortly, and Roger making regular phone calls home as Mick Grant goes through Statue Corner. Roger Marshall goes underneath the Seiko Bridge, peels hard right for Yacht Club Bend, and is in pursuit. But he'll need a miracle, I think, if he's going to get back on terms with Grant. And again, you can see how the bike just twitches and weaves on heavy braking. These big, wide, slick tyres putting a lot of rubber on the road, but even so, the men ask an awful lot of those tyres on heavy braking and, of course, on heavy acceleration. And that looks a little bit like Mark Sal in third place. He's just at the head of this big group of riders. Sal in third spot. And Roger Burnett, and it looks a bit like Steve Parrish, in fact. So Parrish, we did say Parrish was in trouble early on. Obviously, we missed him in some of the traffic. So my apologies to Steve Parrish fans. He's very much in the picture. He's in fifth place, just behind Roger Burnett. Roger Burnett, of course, in fourth spot. And there's the leaderboard to confirm all that. 13 laps gone for the race leader, number 10. 35 minutes, 21.83 seconds. Roger Marshall, number 11, in second spot, as Grant again goes through the hairpin. No problems this time. Nobody gets in his way. Quick rundown of the orders at the end of that 11th lap. And there's Colin Marshall. What a wide line Colin Marshall takes with that big sit-up and beg handlebars on that 1000cc Honda. Grant, number 10, still charging through. No problems at all out in front. Roger Marshall is in second place. Mark Sal third. Roger Burnett fourth. Steve Parrish fifth. Peter Rubato, that's the second West German, he's going very well indeed. He's in sixth spot, and Stuyvesant at the moment is in seventh place. And that's the distinctive style of Mick Grant. It was feared that Mick, in fact, wouldn't be fit enough to come to Macau. He had a very bad attack of tonsillitis that had him in bed at his home at Lepton Grange, but the doctors managed to cure him in time for him to fly out along with the rest of the tour group. Roger Marshall, backed of course by the United Trading Company, one of the sponsors who helped make this race meeting possible. Just out of picture, Donny McLeod about to be lapped. Sorry, the Union Trading Company, my apologies, Union Trading Company, the sponsors of Roger Marshall there on the factory Honda, and Marshall in pursuit at the moment of Donny McLeod. And in fact, Marshall has cut the lead to 22 seconds. Now, whether that really is a case of Grant easing off or Marshall quickening the pace, we won't know. I suspect it's a case of Grant easing off. Mick there in the picture, going through the Solitude S's, going very well indeed, and of course with more than 20 seconds in hand and less than 2 laps to go, you can ease off, Paul.
Yes, indeed you can. But it's one of the things that Mick's Isle of Man experience will teach him is that racing out on your own in front, as you have to do in the Isle of Man, you can pace yourself very much. And he won't worry too much whether he's 23 or 22 or 20 seconds in front of Roger Marshall.
Well, of course, it doesn't matter how many seconds you beat the winner by. You beat the second place man by, you're the winner if you take the checkered flag first. A philosophy that Mick Grant has had for a number of years. Just a reminder of the order then. At the end of the 14th lap. And the leaders on the last lap now, in fact, just checking with the tail enders. There's number 7, Neil Robinson, and getting very much in the way of number 33, Wong Kai Man, as Mick Grant, number 10, comes through. Grant, number 10. Grant on the charge. And the officials ready in preparation for Grant to arrive. There's a checkered flag for Grant, so Mick Grant, the winner of the opening leg, and he waves a hand in celebration as well he might. An excellent performance by the 40-year-old Yorkshireman, and as you can see, a long wait before the second place man comes through. There's tail enders going through. Roger Marshall still chin up the tank, trying to the very last moment. Number 11, Roger Marshall, finishing in second place. We wait now for the third place man, Mark Sal, number 4, in the picture now. And Mark Sal will be very pleased indeed with this performance. Mark Sal finished 5th overall in the Macau Grand Prix last year, and he's looking as though he's going to improve on that. But of course, we've had Klaus Klein go out in this race. We've had problems for people like Steve Parrish and Neil Robinson, so tomorrow's race could be a very different picture. There goes Mark Sal, bike number 4. He's in 3rd spot. In 4th position it should be, it's Steve Parrish who went through, with Roger Burnett finishing in 5th. So there's the first 5. Mick Grant, the winner. In 2nd place, Roger Marshall. 3rd, Mark Sal. 4th, Steve Parrish. And in 5th place, Roger Burnett. And down now to Brian Langley in the pit area.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Paul. Well, we'll leave the Macau Grand Prix for the moment. We'll be back. There's a second leg of the bikes tomorrow. And, of course, Mick Grant takes in with him a comfortable cushion over Roger Marshall. This is an aggregate timed race, not aggregate positions. We'll be back this afternoon with the Formula 3 first leg Macau Grand Prix, commentated by Murray Walker. Saturday sports scene starts at 1 o'clock with a rerun of the Austrian Formula 1 Grand Prix. We've got NBA basketball and big league soccer. See you this afternoon. Hello, welcome to another beautiful morning here in Macau. During the course of the day, we should be covering the 3 main races of this 31st Macau Grand Prix. At about 1:15, it's the gear race. At 3:15, the second leg of the Formula 3 Macau Grand Prix. And the riders are out on course now for the main race of the morning. That's the second leg of the Motorcycle Grand Prix. Waiting by to pick up commentary, Chris Carter.
Well, thank you, Brian, and we're up here on the commentary position on the rooftop, the sun deck of the Excelsior Hotel, waiting for the riders to come round. They're on their warm-up lap, as you can see, but already we've had drama here at Macau, and that's because Steve Parrish, the Mitsui Yamaha rider from England, is already out of the race. He and his mechanic Dave Johnson sadly walked off the grid with a motorcycle that obviously has some sort of damage that makes it impossible for him to start in this second leg after finishing 4th in yesterday's first 15-lap outing. So sad news for Steve Parrish and his fans, but of course the main contenders for victory in this race are there on the grid. In pole position will be the Yorkshireman Mick Grant on his Suzuki, and alongside him Roger Marshall on the Honda, who finished just over 20 seconds behind him at the end of yesterday's 15 laps. So a reminder of yesterday's results: Grant the winner, Marshall in 2nd place. In 3rd spot was another British boy, Mark Sal, a privateer with his own 500cc Suzuki. Then came Steve Parrish, who just nipped ahead of another young British rider, Roger Burnett, making his debut. And talking of Roger Burnett, there he is, bike number 9. And bike number 12 you just saw wheeling his way onto his correct position on the grid is David Griffiths. Well, David Griffiths was up with the leaders yesterday, going very well indeed. David unfortunately had to go out with a mechanical problem. In fact, he lost one of the levers in an incident with Roger Burnett. They clashed out on the circuit, they tangled together, and in the incident David Griffith lost one of the control levers and was forced to pull off the grid. There you can see the men who are going to be battling for overall victory. Bike number 10, Mick Grant on the Suzuki, and alongside him the factory Honda of Roger Marshall, bike number 11. Well, as I said yesterday, 20 seconds between the two, but Mick Grant, 40 years of age, he knows well enough that you can't really gamble on anything in a race of this nature. There seems to be a small technical problem there. I saw Mike Trimby down on the grid waving his arms, but the start is just a few seconds away. Peter Robato there, bike number 24, one of the Germans, the best four-stroke home in yesterday's first leg, in 7th place, just behind the New Zealander Stuart Vant. So